So, reincarnation is taught in the sutras that are considered teachings of expedient meaning. Okay? So, on the absolute level, Buddhists don't believe in reincarnation. But even as I say this, I worry how you interpret this. And I will bring this up because I may be totally wrong. Because many people have made comment that the great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh does not talk about reincarnation. And therefore, many of his followers, and I think most of them are what I called earlier, remember, sort of a materialistic residual, Abrahamic residual students, they really they have now backup from an authentic Zen master. So this is how I tend to hear. I could be wrong, I have to say this. Not as a tulku, but as a Buddhist, I worried when I hear this. Because the whole point of practicing Buddha Dharma is to be free from cyclic existence, samsara, going round and round and round. If there is no reincarnation, there is no round and round. There is this, then that. And this makes sense in a way because many of so-called meditation, mindfulness, and so on and so forth, works so well with resorts. Resorts, 5-star resort, massage, mindfulness, because afterwards, nothing to worry. You become a plant, you become part of the universe. Then, right now, you get a massage, you get a jacuzzi, and a meditation. That's why meditation is becoming popular. This is my fantasy. Again, I have to say this before I forget, because otherwise I'll forget. I will. Again, the moment we mention the words like samsara, because it's a foreign language, then you think in terms of long, infinite, I don't know. And this is where all this misconception happens. In the Prajnaparamita Sutra, Buddha told one bodhisattva that from the time he took bodhisattva vow to the time he was the 10th Bhumi bodhisattva, by the way, and it's like, and he was actually towards the last stage, and that's like 3 countless eons. Okay, be careful with the 3 countless eons when you hear this. Because the bodhisattva, I think, was complaining to Buddha, it's just so long and just so, And Buddha said that from the time he took the bodhisattva vow till the last moment of the bodhisattva, 10th Bhumi bodhisattva, it was shorter than a spark from the fire coming out and died. It was even shorter than that. That's what Buddha said. So when we talk about a samsara, we are talking about a tripping, basically. Tripping, which you should know, being here. And within this tripping sphere, reincarnation fits. So, the concept of reincarnation should not be, narrowed down to you die as a human being and born as a butterfly. This very, very mediocre, very small way of understanding reincarnation. But, there are teachings like that taught by the Buddha. Remember why? Half truth, half no truth. Because not everybody can understand. I'm repeating this a little bit, but you may ask, why does Buddha do this? Why does he lie? He doesn't want you to suffer, remember? Out of compassion. He wants to take you from here to there, sort of. Okay, going back to Thich Nhat Hanh. Then, with a worry, I have read, with the help of a lot of people, I have read some of his comments. And even I highlighted. I can show you if you want. Of course, I'm not comparing myself to, he's a great master, but basically what he is saying is what I'm saying. In the ultimate level, we don't talk about reincarnation. Reincarnation does not exist as a truly existing entity. No. You cannot cherry pick this now. Okay? chö 탐지 밀람다 부주마다 양안이 대비 chö장 밀람다 부주마다 양안이 대비 사비 chö 밀람다 부주마다 all phenomena are like a dream and like illusion. Reincarnation, of course. Enlightenment, nirvana, is also like a dream and like an illusion. If there is something mightier than the enlightenment, that is also dream and illusion. This is spoken by the Buddha. But yes, in sutras like Jatakamala Sutra, where Buddha said, once upon a time when I was a monkey, as if there was a soul, mind that reincarnates and previous incarnation. Okay, I have to sort of rephrase this a little bit. These sutras, are they talking about the truth? No. But if you ask me, are they lying? I have to think about this. Because they are expedient meaning teaching. Okay, this is just what makes an expedient meaning teaching qualified as an expedient meaning teaching. This is important to actually sort of make note. Expedient teaching must lead to the ultimate truth, otherwise expedient teaching is not good. If expedient teaching is not leading to the direct meaning, then that teaching is not a path. When Buddha said, all compounded things are impermanent, that's an expedient meaning teaching, that's not absolute teaching. To be very crude, just to enhance, just to highlight, that's a lie. That's not a, maybe I shouldn't say lie, but just so that we can communicate. When he says all compounded things are impermanent, that is a relative teaching, not absolute teaching. I think for the materialist, it is actually the ultimate teaching. What is the problem? What is the problem? Why this is not ultimate teaching? If it is ultimate teaching, Buddha is asserting that there is something that is becoming impermanent. Danger. And Buddha is also, by consequences, he's saying impermanence is permanence. This, expedient and direct meaning teaching is, as I said, I have no interest in having a dialogue with the scientists. I'm talking about here, just giving an opinion of how to study Buddhism. You have to, really think in this way in order to study Buddhism. If you don't understand some of these systems, you will not understand Buddha Dharma, even intellectually, very difficult. Sometimes Buddha said, those who see me as a form, those who hear me as a sound, they have a wrong view. This is what Buddha said. Other times he said, Buddha is adorned with the 32 major marks, 80 minor marks. So what is this? And sometimes, Buddha never said that there is a nirvana that requires abandoning of samsara. Non-existence of the samsara itself is the nirvana. This is what Buddha said. But other times Buddha talk about the Sukarvati, the land of Amitabha, the swan, the pond, the flowers. He talks like this. And as someone like me, fanatical Buddhist, we are very proud he taught like that. Great teacher. That's why people like me, venerate him. Because he talks like this. Anyway, the reason why I'm going on and on about this, I have a purpose. Because I want to now address to British Buddhists again. Because in some of these books and articles I have read, one that is quoted quite a lot is there was a time when Buddha was asked 14 different questions. Buddha didn't answer. Okay, so that has been used by the materialist, Abrahamic residual people as a proof. See, Buddha did not talk about reincarnation, because when Buddha was asked whether the world has beginning or end, Buddha didn't say anything. There's a lot of fault in this, because first of all, if you want to study Buddhism, you should really read at least few different sutras, not just one. Because, remember, because Buddha said a lot of different things. You cannot cherry pick. And then also, the understanding, now this one I cannot blame them, of course, but I think the understanding of this, which the traditional Buddhist students like me, we rely on commentator like Nagarjuna. You know, in the traditional Buddhist story, we hear that after Buddha got enlightened, he said, oh, you know, I found a truth that just cannot be talked, cannot be conceived, you know, cannot be discussed. Therefore, I'm going to keep quiet, right? I'm putting it very loosely. So the story goes like Indra, you know, requested him, and then he taught first teaching Saranath. That's the general story. That's interpretation. Other interpretation exists. That, what he said is already the teaching. If you can't hear it, if you can't listen to this, too bad, you are not qualified. But what he said, I have found the truth, brilliant, profound, anyway, there's some character. But, you know, no one would hear this. I'm going to keep quiet. That in itself is the teaching of the most highest level. Likewise, one can interpret Buddha's silence to the 14 questions is the teaching. You know, this question comes from Tirthikas, you know, sort of philosophic group of people who basically is a trick question. They wanted to trick him, whether the world has beginning or not, right? Either way, you know, the one who is asking the question wants to establish that there is a self. Either way, however Buddha answered, it's a mistaken answer. Best answer is quiet. Because the same question has been asked in other sutras and Buddha gave many different answers, many. The fact that Buddha did not answer the 14 different questions is yet again a big support to asserting that reincarnation exists on a relative level. Let me explain this a little bit more. Again and again, reincarnation, cause and effect, all these teachings of the Buddha, he taught, not because that's how it is in the ultimate truth. Remember, always this. Okay, now this is probably another way, this is another difficulty with studying Buddhism. Because when you study Buddhism, you have to almost study within the framework of relative truth and ultimate truth. This is very sort of classic Indian way of talking. Okay, talking about relative truth and ultimate truth. Big challenge, this one. Okay. Just give you one example. Actually, there's many difficulties. Difficulty one is this. When we talk about relative truth, Okay, this is what you want to talk about, relative truth. Unconsciously, you bring the ultimate analytical method. This is problem number one. On the other hand, when we talk about the ultimate truth, not being able to let go the relative truth, the habit of the relative truth. Problem number two. And we always forget that relative truth and ultimate truth are both within the relative truth. This will be problem number three. The next one is the biggest problem. Fourth problem is the biggest problem. Every time we talk about the true truth, we forget that they are in union. It's really difficult because, the dualistic habit which shapes your intellectual mind just will not do this, it won't manage to sort of slice and cut these things. It's difficult. And besides, there are so many valuable things also in our life that we value, like morality. Wow, that's very valuable. You don't want to bring ultimate truth, analytical mind into this too much. Sorry? Analytical system of ultimate truth, you don't want to bring into morality too much, because then morality, crumbles. Shunyata, in its absolute, the full level in America, right now, if you teach, you will be categorized into criminal. In America, ethics, morality are so important. Pluralism, justice, so important. Freedom of speech, so important. Those are valuable, valuable. You know what? Innocent until proven guilty. Wow, so important, these things. And not only the, general Americans or general mundane people, but also Buddhists. Buddhists also have a lot of valuable things. Discipline, very important. Cause and effect, so important, isn't it? No, that one, you don't want to touch. As I'm saying, if you use the analytical method to understand the ultimate truth through the cause and effect logic crumbles. And within this section, reincarnation. You talk about reincarnation, for the Tibetans especially, reincarnation is, and the Buddhists, traditional Buddhists, reincarnation is so important. That's why, some people are becoming, making a big hoo-ha about, reincarnation. So, this is why, to study Buddhism, you have to study the framework, how they study the nature of the phenomena, the sort of the Buddhist framework. And one of the most important framework is relative truth and ultimate truth. And I want to talk a little bit about these two truths, especially relative truth. And I want to use an old text. I will just quote a few. And the reason why I want to do this is because some of you may think, some of this sounds very modern. It's actually, maybe he made it up. No, I didn't make it up. This is a text, and I had to do this. Instead of, again, if I brought a text from, Nagarjuna or Chandrakirti, of course you would think, this is those classic Buddhist, whatever, philosopher. But I didn't. This is a text discovered as a treasure teaching by a treasure discoverer. So I'm, sort of bringing completely non-academic, non-intellectual person called Trengpo Terchen Sherpa, who is like the guru of Jigme Lingpa. I'm going to quote him. In the absolute level, there is no such thing as relative truth and ultimate truth. But since you say you are suffering, and I guess you are suffering, and looks like you want to get out of suffering, and you are asking me how to do that, I have no choice but to tell you, you should understand truth. Even as I say this, I don't believe. There is a truly existing truth. So, since you look like a dimwit, is it? Dimwit, I realized that I have to sort of talk about relative truth and ultimate truth kind of categorization. Because you are a dimwit, and I feel for you. So there's something called a relative truth, which is false, not ultimate, not the real, not absolute, faulty. Zumba, hlua, so. Zumba, lie, hlua, deceptive. And then there's the ultimate truth, which is, okay, first the relative truth. So, again, to define what is relative truth, and I think this is so really good. 4 categories, 4 elements of definition. What makes a relative truth? In hierarchy, the first one being probably the least important, the last one being the most important. First one, consensus, decides what's the relative truth. Before I jump into this, he also divides the relative truth to 2, valid and invalid, and we are talking about valid relative truth. Second element is that phenomena, do you know how to say this? Like can perform, can be useful?
It affects karmic consequences.
It affects consequences. Sort of, it has the, like a coffee machine that like the glass. It has a purpose. It serves a purpose. It is usable. That's one. Third one, pay attention. So important. Anything that is within the sphere of a cause, condition, and effect, it's relative truth. This is important you need to know to study Buddhism. Materialist, I don't think for them it is the ultimate here. And the fourth one, this one, why not? I'm talking to Mr. Gombrich. Gombrich, doesn't matter. I talked with Gombrich hours and hours and hours. He proudly, he was we were arguing, and he was proudly talking about Karl Popper, right? Karl Popper. The theory of falsifiability, right? Falsifiable. And here, I have to say this very loudly to the British. Long before Karl Popper, falsifiability is the fourth, the most important element of the relative truth. Right? Anything that you can falsify, basically, by analyzing, by hammer, whatever. You understand? Anything that you can analyze and prove this is not the real, this is not the real McCoy, right? This is not the real thing. That is relative truth. Okay? Going back to reincarnation, fits with this, valid relative truth. Consensus, cause and condition. What was it?
Purpose.
Purpose, yes. Talk about that purpose later. I know you have a little bit of a problem with that one. I will talk about this later, after food, I think. Actually, yes. See, I can say after the food we can talk. Do these people believe in continuity as a relative truth? I know continuity is falsifiability and falsifiable. Because if our materialist, Abrahamic residual Buddhists are saying that continuity is invalid, you have to be careful, because if this kind of concept comes, you can never ever lock a murderer into a prison. Because at 1 o'clock he commits the murder, 2 o'clock, judge is still reading the court case. 3 o'clock, it's a different being. It's a different being. Of course, I'm not saying that just because it is usable, it is ultimate truth. I'm not saying that.
Ultimate.
Just because it is usable, that it is ultimate truth. I'm not saying that. Okay, I think I'm becoming a little bit fanatical here, so I should stop. Have a lunch.
我们吃中饭
1:30, right?
1:30
And I will try to leave some questions and answer later. I'm sure you are burning to, like...